God is good, and today guys we're going to be talking about an open world RPG set in the Dungeons and Dragons universe, because that is currently in the works. Now it's early in development, but we're going to talk about what we know, who's making it, some history on that company, as well as obviously what I would like to see happen from this game. Before we begin, I want to give a big major shout out to the members of Napalm. You are the sponsors of this channel. I could not do this without you. Thank you so much for your support. And if you're interested in helping support this channel, please click the join button down below for more information and a list of perks. And a very special shout out to the Lords of Napalm, Rayco, Bounty Code, and Ray Cooper. Thank you for your highest tier membership. One of the things I've noticed, and probably you have too, is that during the pandemic, we have seen a surge in popularity of some really nerdy things as people got stuck indoors, right? Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering. So during this time, although they've been in the works, a lot of these before that, Baldur's Gate 3 is in early access, which is super Dungeons and Dragons in my opinion, rolling the dice, the whole 9 yards. We also had that Dark Alliance Dungeons and Dragons, which is a co-op style action RPG coming sometime in the future, which is obviously based in Dungeons and Dragons. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming, and now we get this news that an open world AAA RPG is coming based on the Dungeons and Dragons franchise. Now, as you should be aware, if you're not, the Dungeons and Dragons universe is vast in characters, in lore, in places. In the reason that I think a lot of people will be super excited to hear this is just the possibilities are endless on what they want to do with this and how far they want to take it. And they better take it pretty far, right? Because this is something I've always wanted, an official open world D&D adventure. Because in all these open world RPGs, the really good ones like Skyrim, etc., I pretend like it's Dungeons and Dragons anyway. And most of these RPGs are inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, so there's enough similarities there. But I always just pretend like I'm, this is like, wow, this is as close as I've ever got to being in the D&D universe for real. And the thing is I've always complained, first of all, why isn't there like a real open world D&D MMO? Because DDO is cool, and I've been playing it here on the channel a lot, and I like it, and it's very D&D, but it's so freaking instanced and just small adventure, just your group kind of content, that it just doesn't have the feel. And guys, I'd be completely remiss if I didn't mention that recently I played Pantheon Rise of the Fallen's evaluation build with some other people, and it was super D&D. It really felt like a real got together with my party and went on a D&D adventure. So check that out right here on the channel, especially if you've not heard of Pantheon. It's an incredible MMO, so I have to mention that real quick. Now they're not making an MMO, but they are making open world AAA RPG. So we have potential here for a really cool single player experience. Can you bring a friend with you? That would be really cool. No details on that yet. Let's look at the small tiny bit of information that is official about this game. So Hidden Path Entertainment announces it's working on, I quote, a AAA third-person open-world fantasy RPG that will be taking place inside the Dungeons and Dragons franchise. Their job posting for multiple writer positions suggests that they will be doing a kind of different branches in the storytelling, so some options there obviously needed if you're going to be tackling a project like this. And Hidden Path is a very bizarre choice. A lot of people are talking about what a weird decision that was. Now, they worked on some defense grid type games, and of course they worked on Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which is their largest project they've ever done. But it is a weird choice for a project this massive to do an open world AAA RPG this day and age, right? With masterpieces like The Witcher 3 or Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind. So there's been some really big ones already released. It kind of sets everybody's expectations really high for what we expect. And then you slap on the Dungeons and Dragons franchise on that, and expectations just begin to go through the roof, especially because of all of the ridiculous amount of options in the tabletop RPG. So everybody has their favorite thing about that tabletop RPG that they want to see translated over. Now, obviously, you cannot take, not with current technology, not without artificial intelligence helping, I don't believe, you cannot possibly translate all that into a video game. You're going to run out of space, you're going to run out of resources long before you even get a quarter of the things from the D&D universe in there. Not to mention that it's actually unlimited and therefore would take actually forever to make that game. They had to pick and choose what are the key components in their opinion and put them in there. Now, in my opinion, of course, everybody's going to be different. You're going to have to leave me a comment down below what you think are the most important things for this. But in my opinion, first of all, it has to feel like there are a ton of options. It has to feel like that whatever you did in the game matters. And I think a couple of lessons can be learned from Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access, and hopefully they're taking notes on that, and I would assume that they are because of the success rate of it. But seeing the dice rolls, I think is super important. Ever since Baldur's Gate 3, and I've been able to actually roll my own dice in a digital game, that was a game changer for me. That really made me just be like, wow, I love it. I don't think anybody should ever go back from this. This is where it's at. And I hope that they do take that. Do not hide the rolls happening behind the UI, behind the game systems. Show it. Put it up front and center. This is D&D, baby. That's something that we love about it. And so that's one thing I do hope they do. But from the character creator to the classes to what those stats and the decisions that those make for you behind the scenes with a little bit of a dice or a little bit of luck and RNG there, when you're doing dialogue, when you're faced with any kind of decision, I think that all this should happen. You know, when you open that treasure chest, there should be some randomness to what is inside of it, with the dice roll, with using your stats, your perception, all that kind of thing. Now, obviously, if it's an open world RPG, most likely it'll have action-based combat, which is okay. In my opinion, you know, you could do more with the turn-based system, but I kind of doubt it. In an open world RPG, we're probably looking at a action RPG kind of combat there, but there needs to be a ton of options, a ton of spells, and that gets crazy, man. There's so many for all the various classes of the game that right there is just a massive undertaking. It would be nice if they could share some resources with Baldur's Gate 3, but these are two totally different studios, and even though they're both using the same franchise, so that's probably not going to happen, but that would make things a lot more simple and things like that, but that's probably not going to happen. Now, there needs to be a ton of questing, right? There needs to be so many different quests out there, and they all have to be meaningful, so you know, Hidden Path Entertainment's going to have to hire a ton of writers. If they're going to actually make a AAA open world RPG in the D&D franchise, then they've got to spend, I mean, this is going to be so costly. And then they're kind of working against time as well. Now, we have the next generation here because of the new console, so it kind of opens up the gateway, the door for PC gaming to continue to evolve a little further as well, because obviously when a lot of people like this game is obviously going to end up being on multiple platforms, for PS5, for the new Xbox, whatever the heck they called that. I know PC gamers aren't like, you know, they don't like the next generation kind of thing, but it does matter because companies have to release on those, so therefore they limit what the PC it can do sometimes so that they can also do it on the consoles. But anyway, it obviously needs to be a multi-platform release for it to be super successful, and it's obviously going to cost a ton of money to make this game. But the main feel for this game, in my opinion, should just be that it feels really nerdy. It needs to have that replayability, which the dice rolls help with that, in my opinion, making you feel like, man, if I just got a little bit better of a roll, then that would have changed everything, you know what I mean? And that makes you want to go back and redo the game and replay it and see what happens with different dice rolls, with different stats, with a different class, with a different race. So there's just so much that you can do with the D&D franchise. So I hopefully they take advantage of all this deep, rich information at their fingertips, because if they fail, the bad part is that we might be waiting another 20 years for somebody else to try again, right? So hopefully they do a good job. I wish them the best. Please let me know in the comments down below what are the main things you just feel like they have to do if they're gonna make this open world RPG set in the D&D franchise. Let me know. And also help me fight this evil boss of the YouTube algorithm by smashing that like button. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. We will be covering this game for sure. Super excited about it. So I'll be watching this one like a hawk. But also we cover MMORPGs, RPGs, all the nerdy stuff right here on the Nathan Napalm channel. Hope you enjoyed the video today, guys. And until next time, God bless and happy gaming.